I actually ended up creating a little PowerPoint thing again today for this, which I thought I'd start with just as a kind of frame for us to think about where we've seen behaviour stuff either in ourselves or in others and got caught up in it. So I kind of felt there were these three things happening and then the judgment that happens as a result. So in terms of it never being wrong, the thing that what's happening is all that could be happening. So based on kind of like actually what you were just saying, Paul, about the book writing or not book writing, it's like based on where things are right now, based on mood, level of consciousness, sandbank or no sandbank, all that's happening is what's happening, and nothing else could be happening than what is. There is no free will, there is no choice in terms of, oh, I'm going to raise my consciousness now and get in the book writing mood, or oh, I'm going to make the sandbank appear to put myself out of book writing mood. All of that is just happening, like that impersonal ebb and flow we talked about the other week. It's just doing what it does, and we're not doing it. There's no choosing in it. It's happening, and the behaviour that comes is the behaviour that comes as a result of that. The aspect, all things, as we've talked about before again, but including behaviour, have an upside and a downside, and how that can change over time. So what came to mind was a guy who Russell Brand interviewed. Did I write his name down? I did. David Kessler, who lost his son to drug addiction. Clearly horrible, clearly distressing. And yeah, of course, not something that he wanted to happen. And over time, he recognised how it gave him an incredible resource of experience that and a depth of humility that he would never probably have had before. He worked in grief, that grief process with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and has subsequently helped thousands of people through their own experiences of grief. So of course he didn't want his son to die. Of course he would rather not that. And yet over time, it's come to be, well, look at the gifts that have come from it. Look at the amazing experiences that he's been able to share with others and help others with. So whenever we start to think, oh, this is just bad behaviour, and it's only one thing, it's never, there's always going to be multiple perspectives in that moment, but also perspectives changing over time. Then the third one, right and wrong are temporary ideas, not truths. So whatever seems right or wrong for this moment is just that. There's no absolutes. It'd be interesting to hear your take on this, Frank, because that phrase came to mind from like the Bible of thou shalt not. And it came in context of, it's actually in that Buddhism Plain and Simple book that brought me into all this exploration. But he was talking about, like, if the rules say don't harbour criminals, thou shalt not harbour criminals, and thou shalt not lie. But if you were a family harbouring a Jewish family and the Nazis came to the door, are you going to tell them? Clearly, A, you shouldn't be harbouring them, and B, you're going to lie because you're not going to say, oh yeah, they're just up in the attic. So it's that thing that we can never say. There's never an absolute. There's never a hard and fast, this is right and that is wrong. And which is why... Say again, sorry, Paul.
It's contextual.
It's completely contextual. And that changes every single instant. I notice it so Will particularly, he's really, really keen on rules. And sometimes if I've said, I don't know, I've said to Emily, oh, don't be on your phone. And then something will have changed, which means it's okay for it to be on the phone. And he's like, but you just said to her, don't be on your phone. It's like, yeah, but things have changed now. It's like, he kind of, yeah. And that's so the left hemisphere. It's that, like, but that's the rule. It's a black and white thing. It's either this or that. It's right or wrong. Versus, yeah, Paul, the contextual, the holistic aspect that the right hemisphere brings, the seeing the totality, what you were just saying, Frank, the totality of all things, that helps us go, yeah, this is the right thing for right now. And which is why I think so much of society and organisations are in such trouble, because they've tried to legislate via rules. They do this and don't do that. And then inevitably the world shows up in its grey way that it does. And everyone's like, oh, I don't know what to do, and what's right and what's wrong. And everybody's kind of lost that connection with that inner guidance of that holistic, what's right for now, rather than what's the information coming from the outside. And so then this last one represents the fact that as a result of all that, so that's kind of like, if we're fully seeing all that, we're totally in that place of behaviour is never wrong. And the minute we're judging either ourselves or another and saying that's wrong, you shouldn't be doing that, it's because one of these, and maybe more, like it'd be good to see if more come out of this conversation today, but at least one of these is being opposed. So we're in a battle with, thinking they somehow had control over it, or we're battling with it because we think what it is right now is all it's ever going to be, or we're in a battle because we've got an absolute rule in our mind that we think is fixed and definite and never going to change. And it occurred to me as a result of all that judgment, the strength of that judgment is dependent on the level of fear that we have associated with whatever the rule is that's being broken. And hence, the behaviour, whether in ourselves or others, that confronts us the most is the one that's challenging the biggest fears we have.